I've always had this belief, I've told a lot of young broadcasters this or people in the industry. There's a sea of money, chase management. There's very little great management. When you find them, latch onto them, and follow them. You'll make money. Don't chase money. It's bad karma. And I look at the NFL. Selfishly, adding more playoff games is good for my professional career, all right? More big games to talk about. But I don't think it was done for any other reason than greed. Nobody demanded a 17th regular season game. Nobody demanded a 7th playoff team in the AFC and NFC. And look at the two games we have now. Seattle, in the old format, would not be a playoff team and shouldn't be. They haven't played well for a month and a half. They play the Niners. San Francisco is now being asked to beat Seattle for a third straight time. That's hard. That is hard. So if the Niners, the most popular NFL franchise, easily Denver West, get knocked off because they can't beat a team 3 times, the NFL, Niners should have a bye. In the old format, Niners would have a bye, they'd get rested, and Seattle wouldn't be a playoff team. What if San Francisco Christian McCaffrey gets knocked out for the playoffs? Or left tackle Trent Williams, who's had trouble with injuries? Anytime you do something for greed, it backfires. Go to the AFC. Buffalo should have a bye. They would in the old format. Instead, they have to face Miami for a third time. Miami hasn't played like Seattle well in 5-6 weeks. Shouldn't be a playoff team. So Seattle and Miami, in the old format a couple years ago, are sitting home watching on TV. They don't feel like playoff teams, and I'm from the Pacific Northwest. And I predicted Miami would be a playoff team. But, I just have this bad vibe. What if Josh Allen gets knocked out for the playoffs? Twists an ankle, he's out. Is that good for the NFL? Anytime you do something for money, it always comes back to bite you in the butt. And I love the NFL, but I think it's unfair to the Niners and unfair to the Bills, especially the Niners. They've already hammered Seattle twice. They got to do it again? Really? So reports now that Harbaugh, leading candidate for the new owners, the Walmart family, for the Denver Broncos job, multiple people I trust say if he's offered it, $20 million a year, he'll take it. Wish he would stay at Michigan. Wish he would continue to be connected to college football. But at $20 million, Michigan a couple of years ago asked him to take a pay cut. I get it. He'll move to the NFL. And I do think he's uniquely built for the kind of football Denver needs to play with that current roster to beat a Mahomes and beat a Herbert. Bully ball, build an O-line, ask, like you did Kaepernick, Alex Smith, Andrew Luck, ask a quarterback, Russell Wilson, to run a little bit. It's really built for Harbaugh's style of football. Sean Payton's interesting, though, because I think a lot of people, the Rams moved to LA. They're not that popular. They're not really an established brand in Los Angeles. They win the Super Bowl, and this year they fall apart. So we knew they were very, very thin because they pay Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald and Matt Stafford and Jalen Ramsey, a lot of top-of-the-market contracts, so they're thin. And those teams are always vulnerable when they face lots of injuries, which the Rams did on their O-line. It was a mess. But Sean Payton, if Sean McVay bolts, is so perfect for this job. Now, I know Sean pretty well. I've talked to him 10 different times on my show on FS1, and I've talked to him, gone to dinner with him. I'm not going to speak for Sean, but I can tell you ownership and quarterback talent are the two things he worries about. Stan Kroenke is aggressive and doesn't meddle and writes big checks. Perfect for Sean Payton's personality. Matt Stafford, smart, aggressive, big arm, veteran. Perfect for what Sean Payton wants. A smart guy that can make big throws, has played in big games, doesn't have to babysit him socially or emotionally, just a guy who can sling it. And McVay is so profoundly culturally significant to the Rams. If Sean leaves, then you got to hire the other Sean. You got to bring in a big resume and a big ring and a big trophy and a big point of view. So Sean Payton to the Rams, that's about as good as you can do. A lot of people talked about the Chargers job, but I always look at that job. The Spanos family, Dean Spanos being sued by his daughter. He's got his sons in the front office. I don't know. That just doesn't quite feel as ideal as Sean Payton would want it. Sean Payton had Gail Benson. Writes big checks, stays out of the way. That's Stan Kroenke. Aggressive, writes big checks, doesn't get in the way. The Rams are also really aggressive. Sean Payton, if I know anything about him, he's aggressive. If he wants something, if he sees something, he wants to attack something. I think the DNA match between the Rams, Kroenke, Les Snead, the culture of the organization, and Sean Payton feels to me as perfect a fit as Sean would find. I think Sean would be frustrated with Russell Wilson. They're different people. I think Russell's limited as a pocket quarterback. That's what Sean wants. He liked Breeze. He likes Stafford. Sit in the pocket, throw darts. I'll draw up the plays. I'll be the creative, deliver. That's what Drew Brees was. That's what Matt Stafford is. So I was talking to somebody I met the other day in regards to timing. And they were talking about the podcast industry, and we were actually talking about the subscription service called The Athletic and how it sold to the New York Times for $450, $500 million. And this person was saying, because of the erosion of the stock market, Dow Jones is down several thousand, and because the world's always changing with so many new platforms, is that it may not sell for that today, not even close to that, but it did then. There's a moment in time for everything to sell in the media. That's what this person who has a lot of experience we talked about, is that sometimes something that sells won't sell in 6 months. You've got to hit on the time. And I thought, that's what's fascinating about the New England Patriots. This was the year to get into the playoffs. The Jets were a shit show at quarterback, and Tua couldn't stay healthy. Okay, if Miami goes out and gets Derek Carr and the Jets get Garoppolo, Mac Jones is the fourth best quarterback in your division. You don't get to the playoffs with the fourth best quarterback in your division. Tua probably inside the Dolphins' executive suite. They've made a decision to move on. He simply, college and pro, can't stay healthy. Not his fault, his reality. And the Jets are obviously going to the market. They need a left tackle and a quarterback. They have talent. Running back, corner, defensive line, weapons. They got good players. And New England doesn't have a single receiver that separates. Devontae Parker doesn't separate. Jacoby Myers doesn't separate. They're really average O-line, wide receiver, tight end. They're not going to have, it's not a highly abundant wide receiver group in the first round, maybe by the second. But Jordan Addison maybe is a first-round wide receiver. Zay Jones maybe is. There's not 4 or 5 this year like there have been in previous years. I don't know the way out. That's what's fascinating. This was the year, and they wasted it by connecting Joe Judge and Matt Patricia to the offense. Go back and look at Mac Jones' rookie stats. They're pretty remarkable. They're really solid, B+ stuff, and he regressed. So the timing, go back to timing. This was the year to get some momentum. If Mac Jones played well, you'd have a greater chance to go into the free agent market and convince a DeAndre Hopkins, who reportedly Arizona is going to move, convince a DeAndre Hopkins, hey, I had a great rookie year, followed by a great second year. Come to New England and be the star. Well, he looks at it now. D-Hop would look at New England and go, why would I want to be part of that? That offense is a mess. So I don't know the easy way out, and I thought it was absolutely something that Bill Belichick, when asked about the season, immediately said, I'm returning for 2024. That's not your call. That's the owner's call. The fact that Belichick put it out publicly, I'll be back next year. Andy Reid doesn't say that. It's the owner's call. That's never the coach's call in the NFL or the NBA. I'll be back. Steve Kerr's back if Joe Lacob, who owns the Warriors, wants him back. And that's Steve Kerr. So I think Belichick knows he's kind of cornered here. The staff isn't great, doesn't have an offensive coordinator, doesn't have a tight end or a receiver that separates. Didn't you think it was something that Belichick's first opinion was, I'll be back, basically cornering Bob Kraft? Bob Kraft now is on the defensive. Oh, wait, Belichick's coming back. Bill didn't leave it open for a meeting or a discussion or an argument or a tug of war over his future. I thought it was something. So college football has a new national champion, but it's the same old national champion from the same old conference. Georgia, back-to-back titles, SEC Kings. So I know a lot of people are selling this fairy tale that in 2024, when the 12-team playoff arrives, it will create opportunities and parity for the little guy. Oh, nonsense. Listen, if you look at certain things throughout the course of time, take the Oscars, Hollywood. Used to be like 5 films nominated, picture of the year. I'd watch all of them. If there were 6, I would watch 5 or 6. Now it's 8 to 10. Oh, it creates more opportunities. No, it doesn't. Because there's not 10 great films a year. There's about 4. It just dilutes the Oscars, which have never had lower ratings, never had less interest. You dilute it. There are movies now that get nominated for Best Picture, and they weren't the best picture in the last week. They weren't the best picture in the month they were released. There's just a lot of average now. It's the same thing with a 12-team playoff. I'm for it because it's more big games, and I think college football has a big game problem. But college football and football in general is a depth sport. It's not just that Georgia has great starters, but it's that they have 2 and 3 NFL bodies at corner, 2 and 3 bodies at linebacker. It's their depth of talent. USC's got some really good frontline starters. That guy gets hurt, they don't have anybody behind him. That's the difference between national championship contenders and good teams, right? And so in a playoff, you're going to ask the little engine that could, Cincinnati, Boise State, TCU. You think it's going to be easier for them to have to face a Georgia followed by an LSU, followed by a USC, followed by an Oregon? That's easier? No. The easiest is, hey, can you catch somebody after a month off by surprise, Michigan, and beat them? And then have a chance to play for the national title. Watch what happens. Just like the Oscars. You're going to open it up to more people. It's going to dilute it. You're going to have more blowouts. You're going to have at least 4 SEC teams getting into the top 12. This is why I argued Alabama should have been in. Everybody was outraged. You wake up this morning, the 3 best teams I watched in college football: Georgia, Bama, and a coin flip, Ohio State, Michigan. I thought Ohio State outplayed Georgia. I'm not sure Michigan matched up as well as Ohio State did. But, just like the Oscars, let's give more people an opportunity to present average material. 12-team playoff. You do get, by the 9th, 8th, 9th, 10th team, there'll be some 3-loss teams in. They'll all be 2-loss teams. You'll have 3-loss teams. Against Georgia? Come on, man. More isn't always merrier.